Good morning and Shavua Tov. We're doing Ezrat Hashem, Parashat Pinchas. ויהי אחרי המגפה. In Parashat Pinchas, beginning, Pinchas ben Elazar takes the responsibility on himself, and the Torah and the Midrash discusses at length all the complexity of Kanaut, of taking the law into your hands. Now we'll do with a different issue. ויהי אחרי המגפה. There is a piska in אמצע פסוק, the Torah stops, and then הקדוש ברוך הוא tells them, שאו את ראש כל עדת בני ישראל, you have to count again עם ישראל. We know that at the beginning of ספר במדבר, we have the first counting, and then Rashi says there that הקדוש ברוך הוא counts עם ישראל, לא כוכבים, like stars, because we love them so much. Now it's an effect of חס ושלום of מגפה. It's a different one. ויהי אחרי המגפה, שאו. So now the Midrash says, תצד, כל מקום שנופלים, יפקו למניין. In each place that they fall, that they lose something, they need to get counted. משל לזאב, שנכנס לתוך הצאן, הורד בעל הצאן למנותו, למנותן מה חסרו. Okay, so once you have a wolf into the that comes and eats some sheep, so you have to come, the owner comes and counts the leftovers. So the same thing happens here, and you see that חגיגיות, festivality of counting that Rashi brings at the beginning of a midbar is chas v'sholom to the other side here. It's not chagigi at all. It's not something good. It's something because of the tragedy. דבר אחר, למה מנע אותם? משל לרועה, שמסר לו בעל הבית, צונו במניין. השלים הרועה שמירתן. Okay, so בעל הבית gives responsibility to a shepherd, and he tells him, you're in charge. Okay, at the end of the day, he finishes his work, and he brings all the flock back to the owner. כשמחזירן צריך למנותן. He tells him, okay, I'll count, you'll see, because I don't want you to tell me that I have taken some of them. כך, כשיצאו ישראל במצרים, מסרן למשה במניין. הכתיב, וידבר השם אל משה במדבר סיני. It's not a long time before, just מדבר סיני, the beginning of ספר במדבר, but there it's a second year. It's much like 38 years before. שאו את ראש כל עדת בני ישראל, and then ויסעו בני ישראל מרמסס סוכותה כ-600,000 רגלים, הרי קיבלן במצרים במניין. So it's interesting. The Torah doesn't give us the number of Am Israel, 600,000 people, in order to tell us that there was the same, just to tell us details about the journey, because we're not interested in the number. The Torah tells you maybe a musar, maybe it's a real halacha. When sometimes, you know, when you pay somebody, you take cash and you pay him and you give him some notes, say that you owe him 1,000 shekels, you give him 5 notes of 200, and sometimes you don't count because you feel it's not nice, and he doesn't count because he's not suspected, and at the end of the day you made a mistake. You gave either 4 or 6 notes, and you feel uncomfortable, he feels uncomfortable to tell you. So the Torah tells you, when you give somebody his his sechar, be careful that you pay him and you count. The same thing happens here. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't count 600,000 people because that's a real number, Ella because he gives Moshe, he wants to tell him you're in charge of 600,000 people. And you know that the Gemara in Sanhedrin says that Moshe is keneged shishim ribo, so Moshe mamash nichnas, is mamash the head of them, and he has responsibilities, his own identity equals to all of Am Israel, and Keilu, if Am Israel were not 600 but 500 or 700, it was different. Moshe has to take his personality to encompass each and every of one of them. הרי קיבלן במצרים במניין. בא להיפטר מן העולם בערבות מואב והחזירן במניין. So משה רבינו, when he נפרד מעם ישראל, להיפטר מן העולם. So you remember that in Perek Kaf Zayin we're far away from the end of the Torah, just in Parshat Bamidbar, but in Perek Kaf Zayin we have the יפקוד השם אלוקי הרוחות איש על העדה אשר יצא לפניהם ואשר יבוא לפניהם. So משה רבינו asks in המשך הפרשה הקדוש ברוך הוא to appoint his descendants, Chazal says, as a Yoresh, as the one that would go after him. So here Mr. Fixer joins. So good morning. Good morning, Mr. Fixer. So yeah, הקדוש ברוך הוא, זה מדרש sees משה as בא להיפטר מן העולם just now that he understands that he won't be מכניס עם ישראל to ארץ ישראל, he has to give the number back. That's why Moshe makes the sphira, and it's ridiculous in our eyes that Torah spends so many psukim just to tell us what the numbers of Am Yisrael, just to show us that Moshe has given back. What did we think? That he kidnapped Chas v'sholem some of them? So, but for the Torah, it's very chashuv to see that there is a mamash merchandising. You give something, you get back something, do it, everything מסודר, everything set up. אלה תחלק הארץ. Now, after the Mageifa and the story of the Shittim is over, so the Torah starts with the Chalukat Haaretz, and we know that all the Perek in Yesh Nochnin in Baba Batra is based on the Psukim here and the Psukim in Yoshua. Both of the places show how the Chalukah was. אלה תחלק הארץ, ומי הם לעומדים בערבות מואב? Okay. So to the second generation who stands now in front of Moshe, the Aretz will be divided. But והלא ליוצאי מצרים נתחלק הארץ, דרך דיב, ונתתי אותה לכם מורשה. We know that ליוצאי מצרים נתחלק הארץ, that it has a lot of נפקמינות, that let's say that in יוצאי מצרים, as in Koishish was in יוצאי מצרים, he got his own share, and he bequeathed it to his daughters. And if you say to the people who stand now, so it's much different because Koshis is no longer alive. דכתיב ונתתי אותה לכם מורשה, מפני מה לא חילקה להם, לפי שצפוי לפני הקדוש ברוך הוא שסוף עתידין משפחות לכלות. Okay, so basically הקדוש ברוך הוא and the שיטה, the system of the חלוקה is according to יוצאי מצרים. But because of the technical issue that Akadosh Baruch Hu knew that he wouldn't be able, we'll see why, not because of the Chet HaMeraglim, but because of the Chet of Not HaShakim, Akadosh Baruch Hu wouldn't be able to share it to Yotzei Mitzrayim. That's why Akadosh Baruch Hu waited till here and says just תחלק הארץ. ומי הן? אלו שכתובות למעלה. ובני שמעון, ימואל וימין ואוהד ויחיד וצוחר ושאול בן הכנענית, in פרשת וירא. So you have 6. כשאתה קורא לנמואל, משפחת הנמואלים, אוקיי? אין שם אחד. So sometimes you know that if you equalize the psukim in פרשת שמו, וירא, to the psukim, the same details about the names, about the numbers in the Sefer Bamidbar, or that you take both of the Torah in the various places and you equalize it to Divrei Yamim, sometimes you see a change of one letter. We see, let's say, Reuel, ויאמר משה לחובב בן רeuel המדיני, and in Divrei Yamim is called Deuel. We see Dalet and Reish are very similar when you write them in Ktav Torah. It's either that you do like this or you do like this. So Dalet and Reish are the same. You have a lot of examples like this in Sefer Divrei Yamim. So here the Midrash himself says that even the Torah we have Yemuel in here in Parashat Vayera, and Nemuel as he is called in Sefer Bamidbar. וכן בבנימין, he had Binyamin is the one that had the most kids in the Torah. Yes, he had בני בנימין, he had 10 kids by then. בלה ובכר ואשבל, הרי 10. כשאתה בא למנותם, בלה משפחת הבלעי, you have just 5. Here, what happened? So, did they, oh, we have Larry as well. Okay, so did we, good morning Larry, thank you for joining. Okay, so חסרו ה' מן הבנים, okay, בוקר טוב Larry. So חסרו ה' מן הבנים, we find just 5 out of 10. הרי 6 משפחות על הזנות והצת מילה. So we have no explanations how they disappeared, but to say that 5 of the 10 kids of Binyamin were extincted because of znut of Bil'am, because now we understand that if the minyan is here, והיא אחרי המגפה is just a part of the issue of the מגפה, of the בנות השיטים, not the old story of the מרגנים. אין שאינה עושה את שלה. לכך אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא, מה אני מחלק את הארץ לבני אדם העתידים למות? So we see almost half, 5 out of 10 of the kids of Binyamin had a problem with his znut. Actually, it's interesting to pay attention that Bnei Shimon, we find just one family that disappeared out of 6. And in Bnei Binyamin, we find 5 families that disappeared out of 10. If you remember the rape of Pilegesh Bagiv'ah at the beginning of, at the end of Sefer Shoftim, and you know that the 2 last stories of Sefer Shoftim have a big machloket over it, whether they were at the end of Sefer Shoftim or they were at the beginning of Sefer Shoftim. There are a lot of rayot here and there, but in any case, you see from the story that Shevet Binyamin was very mekulkal in a rayas. Yes, he had a group rape there, and something that was never done. We see the impact that it made on Am Yisrael, how they all gathered to make Milchemet Achim. So here you might say that in the Midrash we have a clue to the coming story, because here you see that even in the znut of Hatzat Bilam, and there is no kesher between Shevet Shimon to Shevet Binyamin. Binyamin is Bnei Rachel, Shevet Shimon is from Mamash Bnei Leah, not even the Shfachot. And even though Shevet Shimon was so involved that his Nasi made the chet with Cosby, but so just 1 family out of 6 disappeared. But Bnei Binyamin is 5 of 10 disappeared, so maybe they are mekulkalim in a rayas. The Midrash doesn't say that, but just a point of view. לכך אמר הקדוש ברוך הוא, so practically הקדוש ברוך הוא didn't want to share ארץ ישראל to יוצאי מצרים, because there are בני אדם העתידים למות. כיוון שבאו להרוות מואב ועמדו על בוריים, so לעמוד על בוריו in modern Hebrew means to check out who you really are. But here I think that the Midrash says, עמדו על בוריים, meaning that הקדוש ברוך הוא knew that they are not going to die anymore. אמר לו הקדוש ברוך הוא, לאלה תחלק הארץ. Okay, let's go on. זה שאמר הכתוב, מדיינים ישבית הגורל. So there is a גורל that, you know, you take some cubes, and what הקדוש ברוך הוא decides, that's your muzzle, that's your share. לפי שכתב, סימן כל שבט ושבט מיעקב. You remember that יעקב in his ברכות said, זבולון לחוף ימים ישכון. So it's very difficult. We know that Zvulun from Birkat Yaakov had to dwell upon the coast of Haifa, of Akko, okay? Next, לחוף ימים משכון, והוא לחוף יומיות, והרחתו על צידות. יששכר רובץ בין המשפטיים, מאשר שמנה לחמו. So you have to find a place where he has a lot of oil or a lot of wheat. So how is it possible that it was by accident, במקרה, as if HaKadosh Baruch Hu decides now which share would go to each one? We know it's like, in מכרזים in מדינת ישראל, we have, how is it called, tort? No, not tort. That sometimes you have to take a worker to work by you, and you decide from the beginning who you want, but you have to, because of nepotism, you make כאילו, you ask 100 people to apply, but you know how it is from the beginning. So it's the same thing here. HaKadosh Baruch Hu makes a goral, but what does it mean? Yaakov pointed out exactly who is exactly where. אין לך רשות לחלק, אלא על פי הגורל, ומעשה ניסים היה בגורל. So the Midrash understands, the Midrash gives a very simple answer, that Yaakov's just gave prophecies, and it got through by the goral, but without the goral, you shouldn't, there is no judicial significance to what Yaakov said. Okay, so everything you do it by the goral. There are a lot of things like this. The first king, Shaul HaMelech, so he was chosen in Shmuel Aleph Perek Tet because of the story. Am Yisrael in Perek Chet looks for a king, and then Shmuel HaNavi and the Kadosh Baruch Hu were angry at them. HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells Shmuel, don't be angry, I'll find you somebody. And then Perek Tet, you have the story. He left, his father left, he lost his atonot, his female donkey, and he looked for them, and at the end of the Perek, Shmuel HaNavi finds him and tells him, you are the king, whatever. And then everything starts again. There is a milchama in Yavesh Gilad, in Perek Yud Aleph, and you find Shaul as if he's not a king. And just in Perek Yud Bet, you find that Shmuel comes again brings Am Yisrael to the mitzvah, to the place of mitzvah. He gathers them and tells them, you have asked for a king, I was very angry at you, and it's a chet, but don't worry, here is a king. And then they make an agrala, and at the end of the agrala, you have, at the end of the lottery, you have Shaul HaMelech. And so why did they need it twice? The same thing. One time, the Torah in a lot of places wants to see the natural way in which a king is chosen, a land is divided in our case. But even though the natural happens, you have to be given the stamp of HaKadosh Baruch Hu on that. And that's why even if Shaul was naturally chosen, it's not enough. We know who he is, but we have to make sure, but by Goral. The same thing happens here. Here is the natural, is what Yaakov thinks, what he really sees in a vision for the future, but he can say whatever he wants. It's just a prophecy without the stamp of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Here, nothing is significant. That's why. אלעזר בן אהרון מולבש אורים ותומים. So that's why how it was. אהרון passed away in פרשת חוקת, so it's אלעזר בן אהרון, וקלפי הגורל לפני יהושע, שנאמר, ויריתי לכם גורל פה לפני השם. ועד שלא יעלה הגורל, אלעזר אומר ברוח הקודש, גורל שבט פלוני עולה, שעיתון ממקום פלוני. So אלעזר says, שבט זבולון dwells upon the coast of חיפה, and שנאמר אלה הנחלות אשר נחלו אלעזר הכהן ויהושע בן נון, וזו הייתה יתרה שהיה הגורל צווח בשעת עלייתו, אני גורל פלוני השבט עליתי לי במקום פלוני. So it's ממש live that הקדוש ברוך Hu's voice sounds well, and the גורל itself, we know it in many places, over the Talmud, over פרקי אבות, כל יום ויום בת קול יוצאת מהר סיני. So the מפרשים there says that if you go next to הר סיני, you won't hear anything. It's just a depiction, כן? כאילו בת קול יוצאת ואומרת, אוי להם לבריות מעלבונה של תורה. Or we have several times בת קול, בת קול, בת קול. But here, ממש, the מדרש depicts it as if there was ממש call, a voice, it was loud, it was nishma b'tzibur, that the Goral itself, after the Ruach HaKodesh of Yaakov, the Ruach HaKodesh of Elazar, it wasn't enough. The Goral came out and said, I am the Goral of Shevet Zvulun, and his share is in Haifa. ומנין שהיה הגורל מדבר, שדכתיב על פי הגורל. So according to the Midrash, על פי הגורל, it's not just by the גורל, by the lottery, it's על פי, by the mouth, by the voice sounded by the lottery. Okay.
Can I make a point?
But, sorry?
Are we saying that Yaakov chose these places for the Nachala? That was al pi nevuah, or was it him seeing what he thought was best, and a Kodesh Baruch Hu Tzadik goes there, but Kodesh Baruch Hu Mekayim?
You can say both. You can say both. But, I don't know how to be machriya. You can say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu just gave him the wisdom and prophecy to see the future. That's a pshat. But you can say that Yaakov decided, according to the, what mat'im to one shevet and not to another. Yaakov set out, and the HaKadosh Baruch Hu was mekayim. That the HaKadosh Baruch Hu keilu gave, the shvatim to divide as much as they want, but just their father knew exactly which shevet, which tribe belongs where to. From here, what we learn now doesn't add you. You can either say like this or like this, and they're both okay. The Midrash just says that the final decision was by the Goral. I don't know what to tell you. I think that you can say the second one, because from Parashat Vayechi it sounded as if יקבצו ואגיד עליכם את אשר יקרה אתכם באחרית הימים. So the Torah gives Yaakov more than just telling them what would happen. It sounded as if because of Yaakov's wisdom and the knowledge about the significance of each tribe, he decided to the Torah, to HaKadosh Baruch Hu כאילו, what to decide regarding the Chalukah of Am Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael. By the way, there are differences between Yaakov's if you I'm not going into it, but if you look in Sefer Yoshua, in the Nachalot, yes, they start after the Kibushim of Til Perek Yud, and you go to the Nachalot from Yud Gimel to Yutet or Yud Zayin maybe. So you find a lot of different things than what we expected in Yaakov. Let's say that everybody knows that Zvulun, if I ask you where he sits, everybody knows next Haifa. Go to Sefer Yoshua and look what's written there. No mentioning of the city, Bichlal, at all. So what happened here? We know that Yehuda is in the Negev, in the south. Okay, that happened either in Sefer Yoshua and in Birkat Yaakov, but sometimes it's really different. So there are, it's ממש לא קשור לפה, but there are מפורשים that thinks that it did change, that Yaakov said one thing, at the end of the day it was a change. I heard a beautiful story from one researcher in the Universitat Haifa, that I'll make a shiur maybe on it once, that he said that Nachalat Zvulun was at the beginning, the sea was inside more into Eretz Yisrael. So where you see Tivon nowadays, which is far from the coast, it was the Nachala of Zvulun. So it's I say Haifa because that's where that's a city on the coast. But if you take the psukim in Sefer Yoshua, it's mamash not on the coast, and he thinks that the Yam was by then was deeper into Eretz Yisrael, and then he went to the west. I'll give a shiur on it if I remember. Bezrat Hashem, it's interesting to Sefer Yoshua, not to here. Okay.
Well, yeah, Yisroel had to be by the coast, so it could have been he could be by the Kinneret.
Pardon?
Why he could also be by the Kinneret.
Yeah,
Going to the Bracha
if
Yaakov.
you look in Sefer Yoshua, it's not so east. It's on the west, but not on the coast. That's a problem. Well, you know, today we have Emek Zvulun in Eretz Israel, and Emek Zvulun is not on the coast. Okay, it's not mamash on the coast. It's to the west, yes, but not far away. But no, not so much. So he brings rayot that it was the sea was by then it was closer to the middle of Africa. Let's go further. But
different topography.
Yeah. He's a professor of geography, so he has a lot of talichim of nature that happened, and he brings it all together. By this, he explains a lot of psukim in the Tanakh. It's nice. It's a nice מאמר. אוקיי. ותקרבנה בנות צלופחד. אותו הדור היו אנשים גודרות מה שאנשים פורצים. Yes, so בנות צלופחד is a feminism parasha, because there we find that as women decided, you spoke about צדיק גוזר and הקדוש ברוך הוא מקיים, so women גוזרות and הקדוש ברוך הוא מקיים. We find it twice. And אותו דור היו אנשים גודרות מה שאנשים פורצים. שכן אתה מוצא שאמר להם אהרון, פרקו נזמי הזהב אשר באוזני משכן, ולא רצו אנשים. ומיחו בבעליהם, שנאמר ופרקו כל העם את נזמי הזהב, ואנשים לא נשתתפו עמהם במסע העגל. So the Midrash goes back 40 years before to Chet HaEgel, and the Midrash said that the Nashim weren't partners in Chet HaEgel. We know that according to Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, we have in Rosh Chodesh a special shirt to the Nashim. Some of the women are not used to make Melocha in Rosh Chodesh because for them it's Yom Tov. They were given Rosh Chodesh as שכר on not participating in חטא העגל. וכן במרגלים שהוציאו דיבה, וישובו וילינו עליו כל העדה, ועליהם נגזרה גזרה שאמרו לא נוכל לעלות, אבל אנשים לא היו עמהם בעצה שכתוב למעלה מן הפרשה, כי אמר השם להם מות ימותו במדבר, ולא נותר מהם איש, כי אם בלה כלב בן יפונה. So איש ולא אישה. וואו. על מה? שלא רצו להיכנס לארץ. So that's interesting. This לכאורה זה פשט, but according to the Midrash, we have a lot of widows, or yes, almanot. A lot of all the men died either in the first year or over the 40 years, but the women stayed to live more. They didn't have גזירה, they מתו מוות טבעי. אבל אנשים קרבו לבקש נחלה בארץ. The only thing that they really wanted to share was נחלה בארץ. That's because they wanted to לקיים מצוות התלויות בארץ, they loved ארץ ישראל. לכך נכתבה פרשה זו סמוך למיתת דור המדבר, שמשם פרצו האנשים וגדרו אנשים. So okay, so we see three points, נקודות, that עם ישראל sinned or was indifferent, while the women wanted to get into to be in charge. דבר אחר.
In this case, it makes sense because the men were afraid to go to war. The women didn't have to worry about that. Okay. Yeah, that's another truth. They had a reason why just to take the good things of Eretz Israel, maybe. דבר אחר, ותקרבנה בנות צלופחד. So usually ותקרבנה, it means they got closer, they just came to Moshe, but לקרב, what does it mean? להקריב, לקרב. So גדולה להן וגדולה לאביהן. גדולה למחיר וגדולה ליוסף. So the Midrash goes and says not for them only, not to צלופחד only, not to מחיר בן מנשה only, just to יוסף, שכך יצאו ממנו נשים חכמות וצדקניות. מהי חוכמתן? So the Midrash says two things about them. They were clever, wise, smart, and they were pious, צדקניות. מה חוכמתן? שלפי שעה דיברו, שהיה משה עוסק בפרשת נחלות, לאלה תחלק הארץ.
So, חכם מדבר בשעה שעוסקים בנושא. They didn't come to Moshe, in the middle of what he was worried about other things and spoke about the Nachala. No. Now it's on the table. Moshe deals with Parshat Nachala. אמרו לו, אם כבן, אנו נירש כבן. אם לאו, תתייבא ממנו. So they made an ultimatum. They said, if you give us a share like a son, okay. If not, so אז אמא שלנו תתייבם, and then she'll have the share through her new husband. מיד ויקרב משה את משפטן לפני השם. אוקיי. צדקניות, so that's a wisdom. צדקניות היו שלא נישאו אלא להגון להם. So you see, through the ultimatum, why did they need the ultimatum? They could be married to each one of the tribes and they won't have any problem. But no, הם לא נישאו אלא להגון להם. They didn't want to use the marriage as a means of getting נחלה. And that's why הם היו צדקניות. ולמה זימנן הקדוש ברוך הוא למשה באחרונה? שלא יראה משה עצמו שפירש מן האישה 40 שנה, הודיעו הקדוש ברוך הוא באלו לומר, הרי אנשים שלא נצטוו, לא נישאו, אלא להגון להם. וואו. So according Moshe is פרוש מן האישה 40 שנה. We know it by the criticism of Miriam at the end of Parashat Ba'alotcha. So now he sees that there are good women. He thinks that woman is something material, as Maharal says, is something that doesn't enable him to be with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that he cannot be in such a higher spiritual level when he's with his wife. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him, okay, that's true. HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't tell him that you're mistaken, but there are women שלא נצטוו, and they were married decent husband, and even though they are so clever, they're so okay, so you cannot take maskone that פרישה מן האישה is good. For you maybe it's okay, but not for everybody. כתיב ויקרב משה את משפטן. יש אומרים שהפליא מן משה שיש צדיקים שנתגאו בדבר מצווה והתיש הקדוש ברוך הוא את כוחם. We find some vain tzadikim, and הקדוש ברוך הוא מידה כנגד מידה made their power weaker. אתה מוצא שאמר דוד, זמירות היו מחוקיך. So the Gemara criticizes David for telling גמרא עם ברכות that all דברי תורה הם like זמירות, like peanuts, like good song. It's nothing to, not something difficult. So the Gemara said that he was punished. The Midrash here says something דומה, similar, שקלות ורגילות כזמירות. So it was very easy for me, like זמירות, peanuts. אמר לו הקדוש ברוך הוא, חייך, סופך לטעות בדבר שתינוקות קוראים. כשהעלה את הארון, טעה עונתנו על העגלה שנאמר וירכיבו את הארון האלוקים על העגלה חדשה. So David, המלך, when he finally brings the ארון into בית המקדש, not into בית המקדש, into the oil. So תלה הארון עצמו באוויר ונשמטו הפרות מתחתיו. קרא וזה לסומכו, שנאמר ויקהו שם האלוקים על השער, מפני ששגגת התלמוד עולה זדון. So the Midrash blames David for what happened in the Peretz Uzzah there in Shmuel Bet Perek Vav, that Uzzah tried to push Aaron in order to prevent him from falling, and it was a mistake of David. David was in charge of organizing the Alat Aaron, and he had to know that Aaron Nosef was up. He doesn't need anybody to carry it. ויחר לדוד על אשר פרץ השם פרץ בעוזה, אמר לו הקדוש ברוך הוא, ולא אמרת זמורות היו לי חוקיך? ולא למדת ולבני קהת לא ניתן כי עבודת הקודש עליהם בכתף יישאו? התחיל תוהה כי פרץ השם אלוקינו בנו כי לא דרשנו במשפט. So in דברי ימים David says קינה speech about this happening, and he says I am the guilt one because I haven't checked well. זה חוקים. לכן משה מפני שאמר והדבר אשר יקשה מכם תקריבון אליי ושמעתיו, I am the master, I know everything, I'm the big judge, תשכחו, that's why he didn't know. משל לשולחני, שאמר לתלמידו, אם יבואו לך סלעים לפרוק פרטו, ואם תבואו מרגליות, אביהם אליי. So changer, he tells his Talmud, if somebody comes to change money, okay, you do it, but if not, if they bring diamonds, bring to me. בא אצלו חוליה אחת של זכוכיות, הולכה אצל רבו, הלך רבו להראותה לאחר. אף כאן משה אמר, הדבר אשר יקשה מכם, באו בנות צלופחד והפליא ממנו, ויקרב משה את משפטן לפני השם. So he says, okay, everything brings to me. So הקדוש ברוך הוא tells him, no, you should have learned קצת ענווה, and it's interesting that the Midrash doesn't have any contradiction with האיש משה ענב מאוד מכל האדם, even though even him was mistaken one time for being vain. You know that one of the Meforshim, I think it's Rabbeinu Hananel, says that in Chet Mei Meriva, that the problem wasn't like Rashi, that he hit the rock, but it didn't talk to the rock, but hit. As the problem was that he was Ga'avtan, that he says, "Amin nasela hazeh notzi lachem mayim." We, Aaron and me, will give you some water. Here you see the same thing in the Midrash itself, and you know, because of that sin, he had to die, not to get into Eretz Israel. And here it's just HaKadosh Baruch Hu sent him some women to show him that okay, some things you don't know, so niflaot darkei Hashem. You cannot know, you know, one time he's punished because of that, one time because of the same thing, it just gets bnot tzlofcha. I don't know what to say. It's not explicit in the Torah that he was punished because of Rabbeinu Hananel's chet, but that's Rishonim. So לא יודע. Sometimes הקדוש ברוך הוא gave a light punishment, sometimes he gives a very big punishment, but לכאורה it's the same issue of Gaila. Let's finish here. Okay. שבוע טוב, and בעזרת השם next time, Tuesday, 9:40, בעזרת השם. שבוע טוב. להתראות.
שבוע טוב.